All right, so what we want to do is we want to practice finding the equation. And so remember, to find an equation, you need to find K, which is the constant of proportionality, or what I call the unit rate. So there are 12 of these. So we're just going to start by, just looking at number one. But what I want you to do before I show you number one, is I want you to pause the video and I want you to try number one on your own. And then I want you to unpause the video once you get it done and see if your work matches mine. Same thing for number two. I want you to pause the video when you get to number two, try it on your own, and then unpause it to see if your work matches mine. And I want you to continue that until you get to number 12. So that's your practice, okay? I'm helping you through it. All right, so let's start off on number one. On number one, it says, on a recent trip to Georgia, Todd drove 70 miles after the first hour. So he drove 70 miles after the first hour. Then it says that he drove 130 miles. 130 miles after the second hour. And then he drove 200 miles after the third hour. And then he drove 250 miles after the fourth hour. So I have all those. So it says, if you read on, it tells you what you want to find. So what do you want to find? You want to, first of all, determine if the relationship between number of miles and the time is proportional. So we're trying to see if it's proportional. So I got number of miles and times. And if it is proportional, we want to write an equation, but you only want to write an equation if it actually is proportional. So let's take a look at it. All right, so first of all, my units are miles. And it says time, but time is in the form of hours. So even if you see, your time is in the form of hours. So instead of miles and time, I'm just going to go miles and hours. Okay, so hours is a unit of time. And if you'll recall, a unit of time will always be X. Therefore, miles is going to be our Y. And of course, to determine its proportional, what we do is we take our Y value and divide it by our X value. But we do it for each one. And if we divide those two quantities and we keep getting the same thing, then it is proportional and we can write an equation, because that number that we keep getting is K, which is a constant proportionality, and we can just put it in our equation in the form Y equals to KX. But let's just check to see if it's proportional first. So I'm going to take 70 and divide by 1, because 70 refers to miles and 1 is hours. And keep in mind, Y is miles, X is hours. 70 divided by 1 is 70. All right. And then I'm going to take 130 and divide it by the second hour, which is 2. So 130 miles. I'm going to do MI. Divided by 2 hours isn't 70. It's actually 65. So this is 70 miles per hour, and this is 65 miles per hour. Well, as you can tell, it says determine if it's proportional. It's not proportional because our unit rate went from 70 to 65. So this is not proportional. Now there's a key at the bottom of each page. So this is what you're going to do. So I'm going to go to this key. Let's see if I can just use this hand to toggle. Okay. Go to the key. Your key's right in here. This is your key, this whole box. Look for something that says not proportional. That's going to be A. So I'm going to go back to number 1. And number 1 is A. Okay. All right. So I got that out of the way. All right. I'm going to go down here and just cross A out because I have A. So I'm not going to use it again. That's gone. All right. Let's go back to number 2. Remember, you're supposed to be pausing the video, trying the problem on your own, and then unpause it to see if we get the same thing. All right. So on number 2, It says the table below shows the distance a slug traveled compared to the time. Determine if the relationship between distance and time is proportional. And if so, write an equation. All right, so I know I have distance, which is in inches, and then time, which is in SEC, which is seconds. So my 2 units are seconds and inches. Okay. So automatically I see that seconds is a unit of time. So it's X. Therefore, inches has to be Y. So I'm just going to label it right here. Okay. All right. So when we check to see if it's proportional, we divide Y by X, which means we're going to take the inches and divide it by the number of seconds. Not seconds by inches, but inches divided by seconds. Okay. Y by X. So let's just check each one of these. And these are fractions. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using the division bar, I'm going to use the division sign. So if you look in this column here, your inches is 1/2. So you're going to take 1/2 and divide it by 4. I'm going to put 4 over 1. And then you're simply going to keep, change, and flip. So you have 1/2 times 1/4, and you get 1/8. All right. The next one we're going to check is 5/8 divided by 5. And then I'm going to keep, change, and flip, which means I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to keep the 5/8, and the reciprocal is 1/5. So I end up with 5 over 40. Divide them both by 5, and I get 1/8. All right, the next one we're going to check is this one. My inches is 3/4. I'm going to take 3/4 and divide it by 6. I'm going to put 6 over 1. I'm going to keep, change, and flip. So that's 3/4 times 1/6. Use the reciprocal. So that's 3 over 24. Divide them both by 3. And I end up with 1/8. So far it's proportional, but I have one more to check. This one here. All right, so the number of inches is 7/8 divided by the seconds, 7 seconds. Put 7 over 1. I'm going to keep, change, and flip. So I have 7/8 times the reciprocal of that would be 1/7. So I end up with 7 over 56. You can divide both of these by 7. So we end up with 1/8 as well. So all the way through, you end up with 1/8 in simplified form. Make sure you put them in simplified form. So I can see that K is equivalent to 1/8. And your equation is in the form Y equals to KX. So my equation is Y equals to 1/8 X. Okay. So remember, if it's proportional, you write the equation. I know that was a lot of work and not much space, but I hope you all follow me. Okay, so I checked each one, and then I found the constant of proportionality and wrote the equation. Now I just need to go down and find Y equals to 1/8 X. That's D. So number 2 is actually D. Okay. All right. You're going to pause the video and try number 3, and then unpause the video. All right, on number 3, it says Chase can run 1/4 of a mile in 2.5 minutes, assuming he runs at a constant speed. So when it says assuming he runs at a constant speed, which means the speed doesn't change. So the word constant automatically lets you know that it is proportional. So we're going to go ahead and write an equation that shows the proportional relationship between distance and time. Okay. So to note, because it says constant, because it says the speed is constant, the relationship is automatically proportional. Okay, so we know that. So if it's proportional, all we have to do is take y and divide it by x. All right, so I need to figure out what y and x are. So I know I have distance. And distance is really in terms of miles. And I also have time. And time is in terms of minutes. Okay, so with that being said, you automatically know minutes is a unit of time. Your time is going to be x, and therefore miles is going to be y. I'll change it to a different color so it'll stand out. That's y, and that's x. Okay? All right. So now I can set up my division problem. So if I set my division problem up, all I have to do is take y and divide it by x. I'll write that a little better. All right, so in other words, we're going to take miles and divide it by minutes. Okay, so what was the number of miles? Well, the number of miles was 1/4. And these are fractions, so we're going to keep it in fraction form. 1/4 divided by the number of minutes, which is 2.5 minutes. Well, what I'm going to do is change this to an improper fraction. So that's 1/4 divided by 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Divided by 5/2. I'm going to keep, change, and flip. In other words, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I end up with 1/4 times 2 over 5. When I multiply by the reciprocal, I end up with 2 over 20. Divide them both by 2 to simplify. Remember, these are going to be in simplified form. So K is automatically 1/10. If K is 1/10, then the equation is y equals to 1/10 x. All right, so that's my equation and my constant of proportionality. So I just go down and see what that matches. So y equals to 1/10 x is f. So I'm going to mark out f. And number 3 is f. Okay? Just that simple. All right, now you're going to pause the video and try number 4. And it says Alyssa purchased 3 pounds of peanuts for $8.25. You want to write an equation that shows the relationship between cost and pounds is proportional. So we're automatically assuming that it's proportional because we're going to start off writing the equation. Okay? And it says that shows the relationship between cost and the number of pounds purchased. So we're assuming that it is proportional. It didn't give us any other numbers to work with besides just one pair. So we're going to assume that it's proportional. All right, so we know that we have pounds as a unit and cost because it costs $8.25. All right, but I know that cost depends on the number of pounds. Since cost is dependent, I'm going to call it Y. So the number of pounds will be X. So when I divide Y by X. Y is cost. The number of pounds is X. So let's make sure we set it up that way. All right, so what was the cost? Well, the cost was $8.25. Divided by the number of pounds, well, that's 3 pounds. I'm going to put LBS for pounds. That's being lazy. All right, so now we're going to do 825 divided by 3. So you end up with $2.75. So basically that's like $2.75 per pound. So K is equal to 275. And the equation is Y equals to 275X. Because remember, the equation is in the form Y equals to KX. You're just going to replace K with whatever that value is. All right, so you're going to look for Y equals to 275X, and that would be H. So number 4 is H. All right, so I'm going to go to the next page, and I want you to pause the video on the next page. When you get to the next page, and I want you to try number 5. So pause the video and try number 5. All right, let's take a look at it. So on number 5, it says that a recipe that makes 8 jumbo blueberry muffins calls for 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, assuming the relationship is proportional. So again, we're assuming it's proportional. And that's very important. So I'm going to highlight that. We're going to assume that the relationship is proportional. So we don't have to check anything. So assuming it's proportional, we're going to go ahead and write an equation showing the amount of baking soda needed per muffin. So I already see the word per. Per is a rate statement. So because I see per, it's automatically what is before per is Y, and what is after per is X. So it's pretty easy. So I'm going to define the constant of proportionality. I'm going to take Y and divide it by X. That's going to tell us K, which is again our constant of proportionality. And remember, the equation is in the form Y equals to KX. So all I need to do is find K and replace K with whatever number I get. All right, so let's take a look at this. So Y is the amount of baking soda. So how much baking soda do I actually have? Well, I have 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. So I know I want to write 1 1/2 divided by the number of muffins. So how many muffins do I have? Well, I have 8 jumbo muffins, okay? So I'm going to divide by 8, or 8 over 1. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change 1 1/2 to an improper fraction. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3, so I have 3 halves divided by 8 over 1. I want to keep change flip or multiply by the reciprocal. So I have 3 halves times 1/8. So I end up with 3/16. Now 3/16 is already in simplest form. So that tells me that K is equal to 3/16. And the equation is Y equals to 3/16 X. All right, so let's go down and mark off the box that has Y equals to 3/16 X. And that will be L. So I'm going to mark L off. So it tells me that number 5 is L. All right, so number 5 is L. you're going to pause the video and you're going to try number 6. All right, so let's take a look at it. All right, it says a 12-ounce bottle of shampoo lasts 16 weeks. Again, we are assuming he uses the same amount each week. So if he's using the same amount each week, it's constant, which means that it's proportional. We need to write an equation representing ounces used to the number of weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and write my units down. My units are ounces and number of weeks. Well, number of weeks is a unit of time. So since it's a unit of time, it's automatically X. Therefore, ounces is Y. So since we're assuming that this is proportional because he's using the same amount each week, we're going to go ahead and divide Y by X. So Y is the number of ounces. Well, how many ounces were there in the bottle? There were 12. So that's going to be 12 ounces divided by X, which is the number of weeks. And there were 16 weeks. It took them 16 weeks to use that whole bottle, which was 12 ounces. So we're going to divide by 16 weeks. All right, so I have 12 divided by 16. You could take 12 and divide it by 16, and you're going to end up with a decimal. And the decimal form may be at the bottom. You're going to end up with 75/100. But what I'm going to do is just simplify this fraction because it's just easy. Of course, you could divide. Dividing is easy too. Give you that decimal. Divide 12 and 16 both by 4. I'm just going to reduce it and put it in simplest form. So that's going to be 3/4. Basically, one used 3/4 of an ounce every week. K, therefore, is 3/4. And if the equation is written in the form y equals to kx, then it's in the form y equals to 3/4 x. So what you're going to do is just go down and see if we can find y equals to 3/4 x. And if you don't, you need to flip it to a decimal, but there it is, it's C. Now, had you not seen 3/4, then you could have taken 3/4 and divided it. It would have given you 75/100 x. I really don't care which one you write. Just write one for me. Same for D. We got 1/8. If you wanted to take 1 and divide it by 8, it'll be decimal form. I think it's 0.125 or 125 thousandths. If you see something like that. All right, so let's go back up. And we're going to write C for that one. Now, I want you to pause the video and try number 7. I'll go back to it in just a second. I noticed I didn't cross out D. Oh, it's on the other one. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at number 7. Every month, Claire deposits $600 in her checking and her savings account. Write an equation that shows the relationship between the amount saved and the number of months. All right, so this one is fairly simple. Some of you are like, how in the world is that simple? Well, I'll show you. So every month, she's putting in the same thing. So it's money and months are units. And let me just take that off instead of the dollar sign. I'll put money. Okay, so months is our X because it's the unit of time. Therefore, the money is our Y. And when you take Y and divide it by X, you're going to get the unit rate. Okay, so the unit rate, it has a denominator of 1. So if she put in $600 every month, that means for 1 month, she put in $600. Okay, for every 1 month is $600. So this is $600 per month. It's already a unit rate because it already has a denominator of 1. Has a denominator of 1. It's what she's doing. It's what she's doing per month. So you don't have to try to figure out what it is per ounce or per anything, like per week. Per means 1. This is already $600 per 1 month. So it's already set up for you. So your K is automatically 600. So your equation, which is in the form y equals to kx, is just y equals to 600x. So if we try to find what box that matches y equals to 600x, it's B. Let's cross out B. I'm going to put B right here, and number 7. Okay, you're going to pause the video and you're going to try number 8. All right, it says determine if the relationship shown in the table is proportional. So now we're determining if it's proportional. To determine if something is proportional, each y divided by x has to be the same. So you got to check each one of these. So I got to figure out which one is y and which one is x. And if it is proportional, we need to write an equation. All right, so this is money earned in hours. Well, hours is a unit of time, so it's automatically x, which means the money earned is y. So keep in mind, you are dividing y by x. So I'm going to look at this first column here. The money earned was $80 in 4 hours, which means someone made $20 per hour. All right, if you look at this one, someone earned $120 in 6 hours. Well, that's also $20 per hour. All right, if you look at this one, we have $160 earned in 8 hours. Well, that's also $20 per hour. So far it's proportional because I keep getting 20. All right, $200 earned in 10 hours. It's also $20 per hour. So if you look, I keep getting 20, 20, 20, 20, and 20. All right, so this thing is proportional. And if it's proportional, you can write the constant of proportionality. The constant of proportionality is that number we kept getting once we divided, which is 20. And the equation is written in the form y equals to kx, k being your constant of proportionality. So I'm just going to replace k with that number. So instead of y equals to kx, we're going to go y equals to 20x. And if you look, that's the letter J. So 8 is J. All right, now I want you to pause the video and you're going to try number 9. All right, 9 says determine if the relationship shown in the table is proportional. If so, write an equation that shows the relationship. So again, it's the same thing. All right, so here I have cost and pounds. You got to look at your units, guys. So which one of these units is y? Which one represents x? Well, we have learned that the cost of something, whether it's fruit or vegetables or what have you, depends on the number of pounds. That's why they weigh stuff. You go to a grocery store, they're going to weigh your fruits, they're going to weigh your vegetables. They can't tell how much it costs until they determine the weight. So since cost is dependent on something, we're going to say cost is equivalent to the y variable. And then the number of pounds has to be our x. All right, so just looking at this first one, we have 0, 0 because it has a 0 for the, at least the x. Let me put this. Cost was y and pounds was x. So we have a 0 for x and we're dividing by 0. That's impossible. So we're not even going to worry about that one. We're going to go ahead and start off with 312. So for 3 pounds of food, we paid $12. So we're going to take 12 and divide it by 3. So basically, it ends up being like $4 per pound. All right, let's take a look at this one. $24 for 6 pounds of food ends up being also $4 per pound. $36 for 9 pounds of food ends up being $4 per pound. So is this proportional? I'm sure it is because we keep getting the number 4. So you get 4, 4, and 4 because those are the same. We say it's proportional. So yes, it is proportional. And I know the constant of proportionality is that number I keep getting. So K is equal to 4. That's my constant of proportionality. My equation is written in the form y equals to kx. K is 4, so I write y equals to 4x. That's the equation. Well, where do you see y equal to 4x? Let's go to the bottom. We're going to mark it off. All right, so I see it on K here. So I'm going to mark off K. And that gets placed right here on number 9. Number 9 is K. All right, so we got 3 more. Same process. Pause the video and see if you can do 10 on your own. Then unpause the video, okay, and see if yours matches mine. All right, 10 says determine if the relationship shown in the table is proportional. So we're determining proportionality again. To determine proportionality, you take each y value and divide it by each corresponding x value. Once you divide those two pair of numbers, if it's the same, it's proportional. And you have to keep checking each one. If those numbers that you divide, those ratios that you get are not the same, then it's not proportional. So let's check it out. Let's look at our units. All right, so looking at our units, we have money and hours. Hours is a unit of time, so it's automatically X, which means money earned is automatically Y. So we're going to take Y and divide it by X for each one of these. We'll start off with this column. Because I have fractions, I'm going to write it with the division symbol instead of the division bar. So I have 15 divided by 1 and 1/2. I'm going to write 15 as a fraction. I'm going to write 15 over 1 divided by what this ends up being after I change it to an improper fraction. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So it's divided by 3/2. I'm going to keep change, flip, and multiply by the reciprocal. So that's 15 over 1 times 2/3. I end up with 30 divided by 3. Well, 30 divided by 3 is 10. Basically, it's like $10 per hour. All right, here. Let's work on this one. 20 divided by 2. They're not fractions, so I'm going to use the division bar. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So right now they're proportional because I got 10 and 10. So let's just see if we keep getting 10. All right, because I have a fraction in this column, I'm going to use the division symbol sign instead of the division bar. Your y is 35. I'm going to put 35 over 1 divided by 3.5. 35 over 1, leave it for right now. Change 3.5 to an improper fraction. That ends up being 7/2. Then I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I have 35 over 1 times 2/7. Well, 2 35s is 70, and 1 times 7 is 7. If you take 70 and divide it by 7, you get 10. So I'm still getting 10. So I just got to check one more. So that would be 40 divided by 4, which of course is 10. So all the way through, you're going to get 10, 10, 10, 10, and 10. So somebody is making $10 an hour. All right, so K is 10. So the equation is y equals to 10x because you replace K in this form with 10. Let me write that a little better. All right, so let's go down and find y equals to 10x. And that would be G. So we have 2 more left. Same process. Pause the video and try number 11. Let me move it up. All right, so you'll pause the video and try number 11. All right, 11 says determine if the relationship shown in the table is proportional. If so, write an equation that represents the relationship. So again, it's the same format. I see that I have months. Months is a unit of time. It's automatically X, and the money spent on the cable bill is Y. So you have take Y and divide it by X. You're going to take 82 and divide it by 2. So it ends up being like $41 per month. It's a slash for per, being lazy. All right, here you have 164 divided by 4. It also ends up being $41 per month. All right, here you're going to have $246 divided by 6 months. It's also, let me do this. It's also going to end up being $41 per month. And you have one more to check. You paid $328 for a total of 8 months. That's also $41 per month. So because you keep getting 41, 41, 41, 41, it is proportional. It's proportional. And your equation, which is in the form y equals to kx, and let's go back and put k. K is that 41 that we kept getting. So your equation is y equals to 41x. And you see that on E. So you're going to put E on number 11. And yes, I know you can look at the last one and go ahead and put that for number 12, but I want you to show me the work. So like the only one we didn't use out of the box, I think, was I. So I know number 12 is I. But I don't want you to just write I down and quit. And so what I want you to do is try number 12. Then unpause the video and see if we have the same thing with the work, guys. All right, it says the school is planning a family movie night where popcorn will be served. The constant relationship between the cups of popcorn and the number of people is shown in the table. So keyword constant. Because it's constant, we assume it is proportional. Because it says that it's constant. Okay? It uses the word constant. All right. Now, you're going to write an equation. So to write an equation, you need to take y and divide it by x. You don't see a unit of time on here. Your units are number of people and cups of popcorn. But the cups of popcorn that you're going to use depend on how many people are there. So I know cups of popcorn depend on the number of people. The more people I have, the more cups of popcorn I need. The less people I have, the less amount of cups of popcorn I need. So my cups of popcorn is dependent on something. So it's Y. Therefore, the number of people is my X. Okay. All right. So number of people is my X and the cups of popcorn is Y. So I want to take Y and divide it by X. All right. So that's the first column. I'm going to do 90 divided by 30, which gives me 3. Basically, it's like 3 cups of popcorn per person. All right, and then we'll check the next one. All right, so we have 120 divided by 40. I'm just going to cross these zeros out. It's just easier to do that way. And look at this, is 12 divided by 4, which is 3. Okay. The next one we're going to check is 150. Definitely did not want to do that. I don't know why that line is there. Okay, fix that. So we have 150 divided by 50. I'm going to cross those zeros out again. And I basically have 15 divided by 5, which is 3. And I just have to check one more. Okay, so on this last one, I have 180 divided by 60. I'm going to cross those zeros out again. I have 18 divided by 6, which is again 3. So yes, it's proportional. The constant of proportionality is 3, and the equation is y equals to 3x, and that was I. All right, that's it, guys.